Hunting the Shadows. Good evening, everyone. Come on in. We're going to have some interesting conversation tonight. It's been a long, long week, and we're only halfway there. Okay, this is kind of over the top. Hump day. I'm always glad to see Wednesday. Means we're getting somewhere anyway, hopefully. But it's been a very interesting week, a very long week, and we got a lot of ground to cover tonight. And so this may be a little bit long, unusually long show tonight. Okay, so get ready for that. And want to welcome everybody in the chats already gathering here. Puck F, Aussie Sue, and Wizard Moon, and my good brother Midwest Night Watchers, and let's see, we got some more coming in here. I got Donna Spencer. Hello, Donna. And All Red. Hello, Ann. Good to have you here. Yes, it's been a very interesting week, okay? And I think we're going to have an interesting show tonight. So we're getting ready to board the strange train and head for high strangeness, okay? And that's what we're going to do tonight. And I definitely got some to share with you. We're going to be doing that. I'm going to wait a few more minutes to get a few more people in here. Hello, Savage Grammy. Good to have you here. And, got a lot of ground to cover tonight. Got some stuff I'm going to share with you. And as you might remember, I mentioned last week that I had a case coming up. Hello, Mary. And the girl on her gong is here. Hello. And it was an interesting case, definitely. I'm mostly kind of retired out of the field. I don't do this on a regular basis anymore, but this was a special needs kind of thing. And it was definitely an old colleague of mine who had some friends who had this problem. And I try to help where I can, but like I say, I'm really retired from this now. But it was interesting to get back in the saddle. Hello, Juno, for a little while. Shiro, good to have you here, dear. And it turned out to be a very interesting case, and I'm gonna go in depth and talk about that a little bit in a few minutes here. I want to make an announcement now about Friday night. Okay, Friday night we're gonna have an interesting show. You don't want to miss it. Actually, it's going to be about it's going to be about, I'm getting it up here so I can, it's going to be about alchemy, Dr. John Dee, and Constantine. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about Constantine because there is some connections there with that. I know it's a movie, but we're going to talk about that a little bit too. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion Friday night at 8 o'clock, so you don't want to miss it, okay? And by the way, they are working on Constantine too, so we will definitely be talking about that. But I want to talk about some of the connections he's got especially some of the things he supposedly does. I'm not a huge, big, tremendous fan of Constantine, okay? But I like it. I mean, it's okay as a movie and all that, and the story premise. I never read the comics on that. I'll have to check it out sometime, definitely. Hello, Kyle, and Kyle Smith's in the house, yes, and um, it was a very interesting case. I'm gonna get back to that. Talk a little bit about the case there. Um, I wanted to, as of course, to always through my career, I have treated all of my clients with complete confidentiality. So I won't be mentioning any names or locations tonight. I never do that, but I will be telling you some specifics and some things that did happen and what went on with that. It was a very interesting case. And actually, when you run into something like that, there's a lot of, I guess, negative spiritual energy. It does tend to drain you a little bit. It takes a little bit of a toll every time. It does. It always does. In one way or another, it may not be physical, maybe mental, spiritual, whatever. It does always take a toll on you. So it takes a while to kind of recover when you go up against these forces. And this was a bad one, okay? I'm not going to get into how bad it was, but it was bad. It was bad enough, and it could have been a whole lot worse if time had gone on. But what it was, this spirit was actually communicating with this young lady in the house. Now, there were four people that lived in this house. And they, as I said, they were close friends of my colleague. She and I have investigated a lot in the past. And I did not know the people that well, but she does. Anyway, the household had four people, two young boys, and a couple. And the young lady was being harassed by basically, it was a demonic spirit. I could tell that by the very modus operandi, the way the thing was working. It first appeared to her, they had heard. Here's the interesting thing about it. And then they lived in a mobile home, by the way. So mobile home is what this took place in. And they had, when they first moved into this home, it was a used home. They had heard that a elderly lady had passed away in a room in the house. And here's the interesting thing: the spirit appeared to this girl as an elderly lady. Okay, and but now you may say, hold on a minute, Dennis. This could have been the real thing. Okay, no, I'll tell you why. Because things began to happen, and this thing began not only to communicate with her, and she would talk to it, but it also began to attack her. It scratched her. It would tell her weird things, give her bad dreams. It would it put the traditional 3 scratches on her. And it even told her that my colleague, the friend that was friends of hers, that it was going to kill her. Okay, it was going to kill my colleague because it was interfering with him. Okay, though that is not usually the way a human spirit does. That is demonic. Okay, no doubt about it. So when I heard that, light bulb moment. And so I knew what was going on. We did do this slight, very quick investigation around there just to kind of feel it out. But I'm going to tell you what, folks, as soon as I walked in the house, I felt that heaviness, I knew what was there. All these many years, it doesn't take me long to feel it, to catch on to it. And hey, Mike Jones, good to have you here, bud. All right. And I could feel it right off the bat. I knew what it was, and I knew it was not good. And the interesting thing is that while we were there, it attacked this girl, okay, this young lady. And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But I do have some photographic evidence I want to show you tonight. Now you can draw your own conclusions to it. Like I've always said in the past, it's not my job to convince you of anything. Okay, as I just present you what I find You make your own mind up about that. I'm not going to push that envelope on you. I don't think anybody that truly does this should do that. I mean, you're smart people. You can make your own mind up. You can see the evidence from your facing, whatever. That's not my part of my job as an investigative researcher. It's just to present you what I do find. And let's see what John says. January 17th, 16 years ago tonight, I had experienced the shadow people. Well, this was what was going on with that, Mike. That's why I brought your little comment up. I'll stick it up on screen for everybody to see here. They were experiencing shadow people in this residence, okay? And I'm going to show you a shadow here in a moment, okay? But anyway, I'm going to show you some of this evidence, let you bring your own conclusions to it. Some of it is still kind of weird. You'll understand when I show it to you in a few minutes. But anyway, the catalyst of all this was really beginning to affect all of them emotionally. I could tell that right off. And this girl was this young lady was very agitated by all this. Matter of fact, while she was telling me before the attack, while she was telling me what all was happening, she started rubbing her arm. She started feeling this thing around her. So we immediately started taking photographs. I always do that. And here's what I've always said about it. We're not taking photos. We're not taking selfies, okay? Just because we think we look beautiful, okay? We're taking selfies to see if there's anything around us because these things do interact with you, you know? And they call me Double Click Dennis, okay? Because whenever I take a picture, I go click, 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 okay? I take a sequence of pictures, and this is what you're going to see there. And I did not take this picture, but I was standing behind my colleague when she took this picture, so I can vouch for it, okay, without a doubt. But she did. She followed my rule. You take more than one shot. You always take several shots. You want a sequence because you got to remember, folks, these things are not moving or living through our time and space. Okay, they may be moving through it, but they're not on the same time and space that we are. You understand what I'm saying? If you can understand that. So it's good to get as many photographs and video. That's why I like video some ways better than photo. But photo has a tendency to catch these things quicker sometimes than even video. Every shadow person standing down a hallway in his house. Oh yeah, I've seen many instances, Mike Jones, of shadow people being captured on film. I've seen them myself many times, and this is one clear way that the demonic manifests itself. It does use that imagery of shadow people. I think it's just what happens to them while they're manifesting in some ways. Like I said before, this spiritual energy, and I'm going to show you something that may be a little bit of a spiritual energy, manifests in different ways, okay? The girl in the says, Savage Game, Midwest, Deep Freeze, let's see. Good evening, Cryptid Huntress. My good friend, Cryptid Huntress, in the house. Good to have you here, dear. So anyway, I'm going to pop this up on the screen here in a few minutes and show you a couple of images here on this. And now one thing I'm not sure about, and I'm still like I haven't had really time to deeply analyze these photos like I really like to, but I'm just giving you a quick summation on it, okay? Anyway, let me go over here and get the stuff up here, and I'll show you in just a few minutes here what I'm talking about. And then I've got something else to share with you before we get into our general discussion tonight. I had something very, very freaky and very strange happen to me today. It's not related to this, but I want to talk to you about that. I don't have any photographic evidence on that, but I may have in the future. But anyway, we're going to get into that. So like I said, it's going to be a long show tonight, okay, folks? So hang in there with me. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you a quick sequence of photos here. Now, this one's a little blurry, but take a look at that. It's a little blurry. That's because it's the light thing in it. What is that thing? Look at that. Yeah, that green thing? What you know? I've been looking at that. Is that a piece of lint on the camera lens? And she was standing in the doorway of this bedroom. This is where all this stuff has been taken, and where the attack happened later. This bed, I want you to look on that bed. Okay, forget about that line, whatever that is. I don't know if that's some kind of spiritual energy or if that's a lint on there. I'm going to have to investigate a little bit more before I can give you a definite conclusion what I think it might be. But it's very odd looking, okay, because it's almost as if an image is moving here. But look next to it. Look at that dark shadow on that bed. That is not supposed to be there. And I'll tell you why. Okay, let me go to the image. Look at that. That's it. A little bit further back, a little bit clearer. But there's nothing there that would cast that shadow. You understand what I'm saying? There's nothing there. And the way the light is falling in the room, there again, you see there's no shadow except where that is right there. What is that shadow in the very center of the picture? Very strange. So I'd like to see what some of you think about that. That's very odd. I'm gonna leave that up for you there for a few minutes. That is a very strange photograph. Right in the very center of the bed, there should not be a shadow there because there's nothing to cast that shadow. As you see, the light coming in that room should be throwing the shadows back up against this way, not in that direction. And from where she was standing, facing the window, that's the doorway, okay? Very strange. Glow in the dark room. Looks kind of like that, doesn't it? I don't know what that is. Really, to tell you the truth, I want to say it could be a piece of lint on the camera lens. That's a possibility, you know? There was nothing lying on the bed, okay? There was nothing on the bed to do that. And like I say, there's nothing on the bed to make that black shadow in the middle of the bed either. That's what I find very interesting. That shadow should not be there. But anyway, there's nothing on that bed, okay? Very strange. I was going to let you see that. That was very odd. And it was very strange. But they don't have a demon problem anymore, okay? That's gone. As long as it will try to come back, I'm sure they always do. They always try to come back. But hopefully we took care of it. You know, I hope that's it. And I don't like to ever have to be called back to the same place again for something like that, and never do usually. Very rare that happens. But while we were there, she was attacked in that bedroom. She was pushed, and she got very emotional about it. But I talked with her, counseled her. We did what needed to be done. Okay, I'm not going to get into big specifics tonight, but I got into doing what needed to be done, and I cleansed, the power of God, cleansed the house out, and that's what needed to be done. I like to get the job done, and that's it. And you don't have to worry about it. Anyway, that was a very odd case in that way. Of course, I've had some that are quite doozies, without a doubt, but that was an interesting one. And it was almost as if it was daring us to do something. It said, "I'm going to do this while you're here." It was really stronger than I thought it probably would be. And if it had gone on and had more of a connection with this woman, it would have gotten a whole lot stronger. A whole lot worse things could have happened. Okay, so it's good, as Barney Fife says, to nip these things in the bud. And hopefully that will Mama take care of her trick. I'm sure it will. I'll just take care of the whole problem with that. But anyway, it's very interesting. I'm going to analyze these photos some more if I find anything else interesting in that. But that is just one that stood out to me. Where did that shadow come from? There's nothing that's possibly casting that shadow, And when she took the picture, the light was in front of her, so it would not be throwing any shadow over the bed. Okay, so there you go. Oh, this reminds me of an award moving across the air in the shadow, maybe beginning something about to manifest. That's what I thought, Savage Grammy. In some ways, that is what I thought. And if you look at that streak, it's almost as if there is an orb and it has left a trail. Take a look at it again. It does look like a trail left behind it next to the shadow there. But anyway, that was a very interesting case. And you never know what you're going to walk into or run into with these things. So, anyway, I thought you would all find that interesting to see. And like I said, if there's any more updates on that or whatever, I'll let you know. But now I'm going to turn to something else that I had happen to me today that was it caught me kind of off guard. I wasn't expecting this. And it's going to take a little bit of an explanation for you. And I'm going to try, whenever you run into something that's unexplainable, one of the scientific criteria is to replicate it. Okay. And just like with this case I got through telling you about, when I look at those pictures like that, when I come upon evidence like that, my first rule, number one rule, as an investigative researcher, no matter what it is, whether it's cryptid or whatever, you must first prove what it is not, what it's not, or what it isn't, before you can prove or try to prove what it is. Okay? You've got to understand that as a very basic rule. And that's exactly what the rules I follow all my investigations. All that. Some people say I try to be a little bit of a cynic on these things, and you have to be a little bit of a cynic, okay? You can't just believe everything. You can't fall for everything. You've got to have a preponderance of the evidence to draw your conclusions, okay? Don't forget that. That's the way that's got to work, okay? And so anyway, I had something very interesting happen, and I'm going to explain this to you, okay? Now, I don't know if some of you might remember back in the fall, I mentioned that I had a black cat named Merlin who unfortunately passed away. And a few days before Merlin died, this other cat showed up, full-grown cat, well, not kidding, full-grown male cat, big old white cat, solid white. And he just showed up out of nowhere, never had seen him before. And he was around when Merlin died. And he's been here ever since. I named him Ghost because he's solid white, as white as a ghost. I named him Ghost. And he's a big cat. I mean, he's got a big head. He is a big tomcat. He's bigger than Merlin. Merlin was big, but this cat's a whole lot bigger. So anyway, Ghost is it's not feral, but he's kind of wild. You have to be very careful with him. I've got him trusting me a little bit more. But as all cats never trust you completely. Okay. But here's the interesting thing about this. Okay. He just showed up out of nowhere. It's almost as if he were a replacement. I'm going to say that. Okay. Hey, Roger. Yeah. And, Rogers remembers Merlin. Yeah. And so anyway, Ghost always has a habit now. Okay. Ghost always sits on my front porch every morning waiting for breakfast. Okay. And now right beside my front door, on the outside of my front door, on my porch, there is a small table, and I have a piece of carpet on it so that he can get on it. And that's where he'll lay there sometimes, so he'll sit there waiting on breakfast. That's his little hangout place. Okay, that I got for him. So this morning it's been very cold last night. I think it got down into the teens. It get kind of a nippy for us. Okay. And it sounds like Sailor Moon put it. Black cat to white. It is kind of strange. And so anyway, on my front porch, I'll explain something to you. I have some security cameras. I have security cameras around my house. Now, on my front porch, I have a security camera. It looks down my front porch. Okay, let's explain this to you so you can understand when I'm going to tell you what happened. Okay, this one security camera looks down the porch, and you can clearly see that table. Okay, where he sits. Okay, I also have a blink camera. Sort of like some of these other doorbell cameras. What it is. And if you look through it, you can also see very clearly the table that he sits on. Okay, you got the layout now. Okay, I can explain to you. Okay, so this morning I turned my security camera on. I got a monitor on my big screen TV in the living room. I turn it on. I look out. So I'm gonna check and see if Ghost is out there waiting for breakfast, because mostly religiously there he sits, Sometimes he won't do. I guess if he has a wild night or something, he may be a little late for breakfast. Okay. So anyway, I turned the camera on this morning and there he is. I could plainly see him laying there on that table. Okay. He's just sitting there. Actually, he's sitting up. He's not laying there. He's sitting there. So I said, well, just for the heck of it, I don't know why I done this. I said, I'm going to look through my Blink doorbell at him too, So I turned my Blink doorbell on and I look and he's not on the Blink doorbell. The table is empty. So I checked the doorbell thing again. The doorbell will sometimes have a picture of what it took. Like, no, this is not. This is live video because I can see a car going down. I see an automobile going down the road in front of my house. This is live. Okay. I look. The table is empty. I look on the security camera on my TV, and there he sits. Now you tell me what's going on with that? It's almost interdimensional, isn't it? I mean, that sounds kind of like an interdimensional thing going on here. Or what? Because two cameras, looking at the same thing, and one of them tells you something's there, and the other one says it's not. That's very bizarre. So I said, I opened the door, and I said, I got to see for sure he is really sitting there. And open the door, yeah, there he is, Okay, now listen to this. This is getting freakier, okay? This is going to get freakier for you. So I go ahead and feed him. I give him his breakfast. All's right with the world. So I go back in the house, and I'm thinking about this. I'm trying to get breakfast ready. I'm thinking, what in the world is going on with this? I've got to look into this some more. So later on in the day, about a couple, 4 or 5, maybe 3 hours later, Ghost comes back, and he's back in his same spot waiting on lunch. He's very regular on these things, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? So he's waiting on his lunch, okay? I said, I've got to check this out again. I do the same thing over again. I turn on the security camera. There he is. I turn on the Blink. And there he is. He's on the Blink this time. But I know I'm not hallucinating. He was not on there this morning. Well, he was. He was sitting there. So you tell me what's going on with that. Our cats may be truly interdimensional. There you go. That was very weird. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But tomorrow, I'm going to try the same experiment again in the morning. Okay, I'll let you know what happens. But it was really strange, really bizarre thing. It was really freaky because I want to tell you something, folks. Over the years, I have done a lot of video. I have seen hours and hours and untold thousands of hours of video that I have reviewed. Okay, you have to do that in real time, and I have never seen that happen. Never, not one. Where you have two cameras and they were just at different angles. They should have picked that up. He should have been on both of those cameras, but he wasn't. Well, everything else, Savage Gamer said I should go stand in front of the Blink. Actually, it was working. I checked it. I went out there. I can see myself leaving the door on the Blink. I could see myself. Yeah, I was there. That cat was not there, though, on one camera when he was on the other. That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen happen. That was weird. Like I said, it was almost like, and it just felt like an interdimensional moment there, okay? Some kind of glitch in the Matrix, all right? I don't know. Says I report my old farm, big black gods, necklace, and shows got rooms with frigate and house protection on magical shelter with my big old white tags on it. Savage Gamer, can he do that? Might need to be in two places at once, I think. I wish I could do that. I could be, but anyway. Anyway, that was freaking. I thought I would tell all of you about that because I'm still investigating this one too. Okay, I'm gonna try to figure out what the heck happened with that because that is very bizarre, very bizarre. All right, we'll get into that some other time on that. I'm gonna turn my attention now to our main topic tonight: spirits of the wood and the magic of the Fae. Okay, this is one of my favorite subjects. The Fae are a fascinating subject. Okay, the Fae, fairies, and we're not going to be just talking about fairies. We're going to also mention elves a little bit. We're going to talk about trolls, nymphs, wood nymphs, dryads, definitely, and water nymphs. And we're going to talk about orcs and goblins a little bit, okay? These are some of my favorite Fae personalities here. Let's see, going back to the comments here for a minute here. Okay, we're playing recorder with help. Okay, sorry, no, nothing, the blinky things. Okay. I love, the blink does not record unless you get it to. I would check it to make sure. Now I can go back and look, but there's no need to. I can go look at my security camera. It recorded that because I'm sure I could see him on the security camera, but he just was not there on the blink. Everything else on that porch was there, but he wasn't there. That's the weird thing. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you understood that. Thriller James, hello. So if any animal was multiple dimensional, I would say cats would be high on that list. I agree with you, Mike Jones. Absolutely, definitely. I agree with you. Yeah, goblins. Goblins are one of my favorites. I'm going to save them kind of for last, okay? Let's talk about fairies a minute, okay? And the magic of the Fae. Now, when you talk about the magic of the Fae, we're talking about power that is ancient, elemental power, okay? We're talking about old magic here. But when I say magic, we have another name for it, and I like it better than magic. Glamour. Now, glamour, when you hear the word glamour, you think of movie stars, okay? Or women very heavily made up, or whatever the situation might be. That's not what glamour really means. Glamour means a magic that is hidden, that hides things or changes the nature of things, that covers up things or misrepresents things. That is what glamour is. It's sort of a misleading, tricky kind of magic. Okay? And when we talk about the glamour of the fairies, it meant they could make things look different than what they truly were. Okay? That's a good explanation for glamour. And glamour, okay, take for instance the puka. The puka, which is a fairy spirit that can also appear as a 6-foot giant white rabbit. It can also appear as a horse. That's glamour, see? It can appear in many different forms and do different things. That's what they mean by the word glamour, okay? But what it means is a very powerful, changing type of magic. Mike Jones wants to know, Dr. Carroll, do you think Green Man's a ruler of certain elements? He is sort of the guardian more than a ruler. You know, Mother Nature's sort of the ruler, but the Green Man's considered the guardian of nature and certain aspects of nature. You could say, if you want to look at it this way, he's the husband of Mother Nature. Okay. But Mother Nature is kind of the one that's ruling the household, okay? Okay. But anyway, that's the way you kind of look at him. But now the Fae, or the fairies, the good folk, as I like to call them, and they were always called the good folk because you wanted to be nice to them. You wanted to say good things about them and keep them on your side, because if they turn against you, you can be in some very, very bad trouble. Okay, so you always, when you spoke of the fairy, you didn't call them fairies most of the time. You didn't call them fae. You called them the good folk. Okay, say, I will leave some breadcrumbs out for the good folk, or I won't mess with their fairy ring. Never step inside of a fairy ring. Okay, it's not a good idea. You always honor a fairy ring. Don't mess it up. Don't go in it. Leave it alone. Uh, because the good folk, it belongs to the good folk, or a tree that belongs to the good folk. You leave it alone, or trail, whatever. And that's the way these people venerated the fairies. Okay, you just wanted to stay in good quarters with the fairies, and not on the bad side. Yes, the wee folk. That's another thing, and the wee folk, or the good folk, the wee folk, and the court. That's another way you talk about them. The court, the glamour court. That was another way to talk about it. Now the courts that they had were fall, spring, summer, fall, and winter. And here's the interesting thing about the good folk were much better and more easygoing in the spring and summer courts than they were in the fall and winter courts. So you wanted to be very careful how you approach the good folk. Okay. Never sleep in a fairy ring. Never. It's really not a good idea to even step foot inside of a fairy ring. Okay, that's another thing about that. Definitely, I haven't been inside since I was 12 years old. Respect it when I stopped seeing my leaf man. Yeah, many giant and little people bones have been found worldwide. Oh, absolutely, supposedly, yeah. Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, I was looking at one the other day somewhere on the internet, but they say they actually found this little dead mummified type of a gnome looking thing in somebody's basement when they moved in this house or something, and they had a note with it that said, "Leave him alone. He was found here when we moved in," or something like that. Anyway, Mike Jones says, "Quite like the Devil's Tramping Ground." Yeah, I have been by the Devil's Tramping Ground. I've always wanted to spend the night in the Devil's Tramping Ground. But they say if you sleep inside the circle, you will wake up in the morning and find yourself outside. Because that's a lot of legend. But it's the interesting thing I find fascinating about the Devil's Tramping Ground. Nothing will grow in it. Why is that? But that's the way some fairy rings are supposed to be. They're usually fairy rings are made of toadstools, basically, and they can be stones sometimes. It just depends. But you will know this is an unusual, unnatural ring circle of things, whether it be grass, whether it be mushrooms, or whatever the situation. When I was little, we played out in the field. We always created a ring of rocks around when we played. Yeah, that was sort of to emulate the fairy rings. Well, see, now a circle, and that's what I thought I was going to have to do the other day during that investigation. I thought if that girl was going to get agitated more, I was going to have to put a circle of salt around her. Circles are very protective things. Circles, you got to remember, symbolize what? Eternity. No beginning and no end. That's what a circle is. That's why you have a wedding ring that symbolizes forever. That's what the ring symbolizes. Okay. And that's the interesting part of the magical part of a ring. As tree walks in circles, nothing will grow because he's putting weight on the ground. Oh yeah, that's the legend of the Devil's Tramping Ground. The devil walks in circle, plotting up bad things to do. That kind of comes from the book of Job, where God asked Satan, "Where have you been?" He said, "I've been walking to and fro upon the earth." But I don't think he stays in one circle very long. Anyway, my favorite podcast said my favorite circle is all secret Aboriginal side of my tribe too. Oh, okay. Well, see, it is a sacred. That's why I say you should respect these things, supposedly, because there are sacred sides to them. Okay, you know that with some Native Americans tribes, you do not desecrate their burial grounds by even walking through them. No, big no. This is a sacred thing, a sacred place. You don't desecrate it in any way. And that's the way these things supposedly looked upon that. And like I talked about before, there is a actual highway in I think it's Iceland, where they have actually gone around a hill with this because it was a hill that they said belonged to the elves, and they didn't want to mess with that hill, so they took the highway detoured around the hill with a highway. Think about that. That's how prevalent some of these beliefs still are, you know. And fairy trees, where they tie the ribbons on these trees, you know, as coming. And there are also fairy bridges. There are bridges that go over certain lengths of water, in which they tie these ribbons on bridges, too. By the way, so you have different places like that in the world. Now, I still say, and I'm not going to get into that now because we're just talking about, we're going over some of the folklore of this, but the fairies, I believe, were real people, but I believe they were a race of people that were there before the original inhabitants of Ireland showed up. And they had to go underground. I believe they were a very advanced race of people. They could have been people who were the descendants of people from Atlantis or some place like that, for all we know. That's an interesting concept on that. But if you're going to hide or try to survive, one of the best places for you to get would be to go underground. You know, think about that. And where the fairy courts always talked about being underground. That's where the fairy kingdom is. Okay, think I just said a kingdom. Okay, that's where it's supposed to be. Circles, Mike Jones says circles, stars, and triangles are powerful too. These are all magical symbols, Mike Jones. That's why they're supposed, like runes, they're supposed to have a certain magical connection. Now, if you look at runes, they're really an alphabet. But some people will swear the casting of the runes. Casting of runes is really how you cast spells. You use runes to do that. I won't get into that tonight, but that's part of witchcraft ceremonies and old. This is ancient magic we're talking about here. It goes way, way back. Okay. We're talking about before Christianity, before even Hinduism. And that's old. That's a very old religion. All of this goes way back. And that's the other thing that we talked about the other day about knocking on wood. When you knock on wood as a good luck thing, actually that began by knocking on the tree to get the attention of the spirit in the tree. And we're going to talk about wood nymphs here in a minute. They live in the tree, okay? And so do elves, but they're not the ones that bake cookies, okay? They live in a tree too, but then they just bake cookies, but they're Toll House cookies, I think. But anyway, um, um, trees symbolize sometimes portals and entrances and doorways. That's why you see a lot of these little fairy doors in trees. They symbolize an entrance into another world or realm or portal into another dimension. Okay, that's the way that goes. Yeah, the Wizard Moon is a lot to be understood because of symbolism. I'll tell you something about symbolism, Wizard Moon. You gotta remember this: symbolism is just another language by itself. Okay, sometimes it's a secretive language. That's the interesting thing about that. And the more we know about symbolism, the more we understand why it exists. Not 3 times. Careful who comes to the door. Right. Be careful. I never look. I never open my door without looking anyway. And that's a good idea not to do that. But be careful who or what you open the door to. You might not want to let it in your house, whether it's seen or unseen. I've had many cases where people will be sitting in the house minding their own businesses and knock on the doorbell or whatever. Hey, foolish to go to the door and open it up, you know. There's nobody here, but who do you know what you might have let in, okay? Sometimes things are just waiting for an invitation, so be careful. Poca says the cheap way to make your own is to find a fruit tree that needs pruning and ask as a lime branch, give it kindness by weeding around it. Well, people would venerate living things for that respect that they thought or believed without a doubt they had a spirit in them, a living spirit that resided not only just in trees, but trees were the main things because look at how big and magnificent trees are, especially oak trees. They were the prime trees, especially of the Druids, uh, in its kind of respective beliefs. But the tree, trees could live so long and everything. They venerated trees, and trees, the ones that they cut down for not only firewood but to build houses and all that. Where would we be without trees? We would not be a civilization without trees. That's how very important trees are. So they venerated these things because they had a special place in their life for these things. Anyway, I'm gonna move along right quick here now. Past the fairies and the fae, who are very interesting. Stay on their good side now. They're the good folk, okay? Stay on their side. And we're going to get into some of the bad guys, okay? The goblins and the trolls and all that. But first, I want to talk about the satyrs. Now, does anybody out there know exactly what a satyr is? Okay. The satyr, of course, is not really a centaur. Now, centaur is a different thing, okay? A centaur is half man, half horse. Okay, basically, he's got the bottom half of a horse, top half of a man. Okay, that's a centaur. But now a satyr is really a man, half goat, or sometimes it's described as having horse legs, but not the body of a horse. It has a human form, but it's not half horse or half goat in that respect. Although it has goat legs and top part of the human. It looks kind of like the god Pan. Okay, remember Pan? And he is actually Pan if you wanted to classify him, although he's considered a god, a woodland god. He is really a satyr too. But the satyrs were sort of like his children, you might say. And they were sort of like the male equivalent of the nymphs. Now, nymphs are usually basically female, okay? And you have wood nymphs, you have wind nymphs, wind nymphs, you have water nymphs, you have forest nymphs. They just live in the forest. But now the wood nymphs live in the tree, okay? And that they will live, they're not immortal, by the way. These nymphs are not immortal. They will live only as long as the tree lives or the lake lives that they live in or whatever that, because they are tied elementally directly to the earth in that respect. And as long as that lives, they live. But if that dies, then they die with it. Okay. Now, here's an interesting thing about this. Okay. Remember Morgan Le Fay? Morgan Le Fay, who was a student of Merlin, the magician, actually tricked him and changed him into what? She turned him into a tree. And here was the interesting thing about it. He kind of fell for Morgan a little bit, I think, and she allowed her to trick him that way. I mean, I think it was, he got seduced into that or whatever the situation. But anyway, she said this about Merlin. He may be back again one day unless they don't cut that tree down. As long as that tree lives, Merlin will live. And so that's sort of like the wood nymphs and some of the other nymphs. And you have the water nymphs who supposedly inhabit lakes, ponds, streams, and stuff like that. One of the most famous would be the Lady in the Lake. She's the one, that come up and grabbed the sword, Excalibur, and took it back down. Remember that? The Lady in the Lake. She is a very famous water nymph, okay, in that respect. She is also a part, and nymphs are considered fairies, okay? But there are different types of fairies. And by the way, fairies, when I talk about fairies, just please forget about Tinkerbell, okay? That is Walt Disney. That has no relation to a real fairy, okay? If I were a fairy in that respect, I would be insulted by that, okay? Tinkerbell, forget that, okay? They're not floating around on butterfly wings. Although some can appear, I believe if they want to appear that way, they can. But that's not what their true form is, okay? Don't get me wrong on that, okay? Now, but satyrs can roam free and are usually traded and enchanted by a nymph. And, oh, yeah, they hang out together, yeah. definitely. But satyrs have also been known to seduce human women as well, as nymphs have been known to seduce human men. Oh yeah, and that goes on that way a lot. Yeah, so you got a lot of wild stuff going on out there in the woods. Okay. Mike Jones, this girl, have you heard anything about the mothers of the giants cursed? Yeah, well, they would have been cursed, Mike Jones, because they sort of sold their part over into the darkness. Okay, it was not a good thing with that, with the Nephilim and all that. We'll talk. We'll definitely have to. I may have to do that as a show next Wednesday night on the Nephilim. Okay, because I'll be reviewing this book a little bit too. So anyway, I won't talk. I won't get into that more then for sure. Um, yeah, you remember the Lady in the Lake? Definitely, that's one of my favorites. And King Arthur supposedly is in the realm of the fairies now. He will be held there until he's needed to come back again. He's supposedly the once and future king. He's supposed to come back and rule England again one day when England needs him the most. So anyway, that's the interesting thing about nymphs, satyrs, and stuff like that. Now we're gonna get to the bad guys, the orcs, the trolls, and the goblins. Okay, they're sort of the dark side of the fairy realm, you know. And you got to throw leprechauns in with this a little bit too. Now the leprechauns are more trickster spirits than any of the rest. The leprechauns will trick you, but they have a lot of glamour too. Okay, so you got to be very careful about leprechauns. Although most of the time, unless you watch some of the Hollywood movies, most of the time leprechauns will not eat you. Okay, they're not going to usually kill you for anything. They can cause you to have very bad luck. It may cause you to kill yourself, but usually they're not very fatal to you in some aspects, unless you've done something very, very bad to them, I guess. But they're not like the leprechaun and leprechaun movies of Hollywood, which is a monster, is what he basically was. But the orcs and the trolls and the goblins would do that to you. They will get rid of you. Trolls love to eat people like the giants, and they are the first cousins of giants, by the way. They're in the giant family. Trolls, mountain trolls, are giants, by the way. They're just a different type of giant. Mountain trolls are very big and very mean and ugly, and they will eat you. All these things love to eat people. Like I said before, that was the biggest taboo of all worldwide in every culture. You just don't eat your fellow man. Okay, that was just one big no-no. You didn't do that. But the bad guys do that because that's what makes them what? Bad guys. Okay. And that's why Jack, the giant killer, had to kill that giant or it would have eaten him. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. So there you go. Giants will eat you. Trolls will do that, and so will orcs. Orcs are just sort of short, small, stubby cousins of trolls, okay? And they live under bridges and hang out in the woods. Now, let me tell you something about trolls. Here's the interesting thing that doesn't go with giants, okay? Trolls, and this may also account for mountain trolls. Trolls, orcs, and goblins supposedly cannot come out in the light of day, okay? They cannot operate at day because if daylight hits them, they turn to stone. Goblins go up in a puff of smoke. Psh, that's just the end of them, like a vampire. Boom, they gone. Trolls and orcs will turn into stone if sunlight hits them, okay? And some people swear that that's some weird rock formations to this day are petrified trolls and orcs that got hit by daylight. Okay, you see this mentioned, I think, in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, that they kept the trolls and the orcs going until the sun came up. They're not real smart. Goblins are smart. Trolls and orcs are not a whole lot in the middle part. Okay, you can kind of trick them, but they're very bestial. They're very animal-like. Okay, in that respect, they just like they eat people or eat things. They have an insatiable appetite. They can never eat enough. Okay, we've all known some people like that. They can never eat enough, and so that's what makes them quite so dangerous. They will eat you if you get in their path. They love to eat little children because they're young and tender and they taste better. Okay. Okay. Gremlins kind of fall in line with sort of demonic, demon type things. They're very much like goblins. You might say they're very kin. They're cousins to goblins, definitely, but they can be very downright evil. Whereas then goblins are very evil, but yet they're sort of they gotta kind of wink at you while they do it, kind of a thing. Goblins are that way, but yeah, goblins will get rid of you too in a hurry. Definitely. Pukwudgie, yeah, these are all different variations, Scott, of the same theme. Okay, you just got to take them in different ways. But look at the gnomes. They're very much like elves, really, in many aspects. And you know, here's another thing about the elf. When you think about the elves, they're not little bitty small things. Elves were described originally like the Fey people, and I think they were almost one and the same, elves and fairies, because they was almost life size. I mean, regular human size beings. That's the way they're described. I'm not making that up. I know that crushes a lot of images you have on that, but they were not little small people. Some of these weren't. Now, the gnomes were smaller, the leprechauns are smaller, and so on and so on. Some of them are described always as small. Trolls, on the other hand, were probably your average troll. I'm not talking about a mountain troll. Just your regular troll probably stood around 6, 7, 8 foot tall. Your mountain troll would be huge. They could be 12, 15, 20, 23 feet tall. They were huge mountain rock giants. That's what they basically were. Now, the orcs were smaller. Orcs were probably around 4 or 5 feet tall. Like I say, but they were very basically just different divisions of the same army, you might say. Okay, they all did the same thing. Changeling, hobgoblins, and all that. Now, hobgoblins, there's a slight difference between your goblin and your hobgoblin. Although some people swear they're the same thing, it's just a different name to it. Hobgoblins supposedly hang out more around people, civilizations, houses, and something than the regular goblins who hang out in the woods or around dark, evil places or caves and places like that. They were the more wild cousins. The hobgoblins were sort of more, a little slightly more lacking civilization. Okay, that's the big connection with that. In Norse myths, elves are human size. Yes, that's true. Well, they've always been described that way. I don't know where they get the little small little thing from. That's a modern day thing. Walt Disney again, I guess. Let's see how Mike Jones says, how can so many native tribes from around the world, so many different times, places have similar stories? Because they all saw the same thing, my friend. Like here in my part of the world, the Cherokee talk about the Moon-eyed people. And by the way, they're not little bitty people either. These were regular, almost regular sized people. And the reason they were called moon-eyed people, they were a little bit smaller. I'm going to say probably like in the neighborhood around maybe 4 foot, 5 foot, somewhere in there, maybe 3 foot, depending on that. They weren't a little small that way. You know what I'm saying? But the moon-eyed people are described as simply called having moon eyes because they could come out at night and see better at night. That's why they call them moon-eyed. But now the Apaches have the ant people. And so you got, I mean, way far away from each other from the Cherokee and the Apaches, okay? They have the same kind of beliefs going on here. So do the Hopi and with the ant people and all that. So this is very interesting. This is all over the world. New Zealand talks about things like this. You've got this stuff all over. I know the Australians, the Aborigines have mentioned things like this. The list goes on and on and on. So you have to come to the conclusion, hey, they actually may have seen some of this stuff. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Bug Elf says, when I was up in Australia, I ran by the serpent's office and picked it with horns and some feathers around his head, just like Americans in Asia. Yeah, it's so. Look at that's the dragon, the typical dragon. Everywhere in the world, every culture knows what a dragon is, or a ghost, or a vampire, or a werewolf, or a witch, or a giant. It keeps popping up time after time after time. And that was the very first thing 55 plus odd years ago when I got into this business. The first thing that hit me in the face. Why is all this so similar all over the world? So many people, so many different cultures so far from each other, and they believe in the same thing. Very strange. That was the one thing that really got me to begin with. The tricky other name in many stores, the little people in North Carolina said the Eskimos in Northern Canada. Oh yeah, the Menahu in Hawaii. Oh yeah, the list goes on and on. Wizard Moon. Oh yeah. So it's very interesting. Why is that happening, and why does that go on like that? Because there is a general consensus among folklorists that hey, these people who never really truly interacted with each other had the same belief systems. It must tell you one thing very important. They actually may have witnessed something like that somewhere back in history. It's like my favorite quote always comes back to mind when I see that, okay? It's my favorite quote. I have it in a plaque here on my desk. Every myth and legend known to mankind is not without its authentic foundation. That's said by a very brilliant man named Herbert Spencer. And it is very true. It all has an authentic foundation to it. Okay. No doubt about it. But anyway, that's some of the glamour folk there, okay, that we've heard so much about all the time. And look how much it has influenced the fairy tales we heard as children. Just like Little Red Riding Hood and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. What do you think they got the idea of the dwarfs out there? Okay, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on, and it has become part of our not just our culture, but our whole way of thinking about things in many respects. A very basic part of our makeup. Okay, how's the book you were saying? Oh, I had that case come up, so I hadn't got too deep into that book yet. But I will be talking about it more Friday night. I want to get in this, but so far, it looks like I've got the book right here. As a matter of fact, it looks like the book we're talking about, The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, and that's by Mr. Gary Wayne. Seems like me and he and I are both on the same page when it comes to this. So far, I can tell, definitely. But I'm about it's about that far into it right now. So I got a ways yet. I got slowed down by that case, but I will be getting back to you very soon. If I don't have it done this week, I will definitely be able to comment on it by next week if nothing happens. Anybody got any questions out there? It's time to start interacting with me here. You got anything you want to know about what we've talked about tonight, or the case I talked about, or the incident out on my front porch? Anything you want to talk about? Now's your time to do it. Start interacting, okay? Don't let it get too quiet here. We're not done yet. The rainbow serpents, yeah. That's an interesting one. But Mary Stalton says I have Gary Wayne's book too. It's good. I have seen a lot of his videos, but I never had had a chance to read any of his books. I've seen a lot of his videos. But like I say, that's why I say I think he's pretty much on, he and I are very much on the same page. Not getting too deep, but the case of girl, did it talk to you? No, actually, I didn't come in, I didn't do any in that case, I didn't do any EVP or anything like that. She was so, agitated. I didn't want to play around with it. I mean, I wanted to get it done. You know what I'm saying? Because I could see uh, it was really pushing the envelope on her. You know what I mean? So you have to, you got to remember this when you come into that kind of situation. You got to take the well being of your client is foremost. And you got to do what's got to be done so that it won't do any more harm on anyone. So it's best to do it as quick as possible. Uh, what steps will you take to figure out that camera catch? Well, you have to kind of take it in a scientific sort of way. I will try to replicate it, and I will try other objects out there. I will try to find out if the color of the cat had anything to do with it, and I don't think it did, but I will try to find that out. I'm going to take it from several different approaches on that and see what comes out. But cameras can be tricky. Although they don't lie, they can be deceiving sometimes, so you have to be very careful. Why would a ghost have a monkey hand slap on it? Let's see what Spencer wants to know. Why would a ghost have a monkey hand slap on a bus stop booth to alert you to a shadow person coming towards you? Maybe it's just trying to get your attention so that it will spook you a little bit or something. You gotta analyze what the true intention of some of these things is, and most of the time it's never good intention. Okay, sometimes it's not. Aussie Sue says Aboriginal people also talk about these. I'll put that up right here. Aboriginal people also talk about all these different cryptids, and there must definitely be something in it for many people around the world. Oh, absolutely, Aussie Sue, without a doubt. You never know. And you got to ask yourself this question too, Donna: is it really a ghost or is it something else? You know. I've seen a bunyip at a sacred site. Oh yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. The girl in the dawn says, "What kind of cryptids are in Oz?" Probably some very strange ones. Flying monkeys is definitely one of them. In Oz, definitely. Drawings of it, and I can do a vid of my encounter, maybe. Oh, that would be good. It'd be good to see. Yeah. Savage Grammy says, "What can you tell us about Weber babies? Are you talking about water babies? Is that what you meant? You talking about water babies? Yeah. I had two owl play with me, hooting, and two big oak trees were hooting at me, and they laughed at me. It sounded like a monkey. Well, owls are very supposedly mystical creatures that have a direct connection to the fairies, okay, to the good folk, supposedly. So maybe they were having a little fun with you. I need to do a stream on it. Okay, yeah. What you ought to do is do a live stream on YouTube, Puck F, and let everybody see it. Yeah, water babies. Okay, what do you want to know about water babies? Water babies are supposedly like water spirits, and they supposedly can drown people if you're not careful. They're sort of like water nymphs, but a more diabolical type in that respect. They're supposedly dangerous in that way. Whereas in nymphs, a lot of times, some nymphs will supposedly drown you. Well, water nymphs mostly were out for just basically having sex with men a lot of times. The men live through the encounter most of the time. Some of them you have to be very careful. There is a fairy, very much like a vampire type fairy, that can lure men into the woods and supposedly drain them of their blood and kill them. Although it's not actually a vampire, but it kind of has that modus operandi a little bit. I get the name of it for you. It's a very interesting one. I know the name, I can't think of it right offhand, but it's a very interesting fairy. And it says, "I have a huge dryad in one of my trees." Oh, Well, see if you get a picture of it, Mary. Yeah, owls are very mystical indeed. And then there was a set of giant greasy lip prints on my driver's side window. Well, yes, the girl are gone. Australia is known as the land of Oz. Oh, okay. The land of Oz. My favorite thing in the land of Oz was the flying monkeys. I always thought that was neat. You got some really weird stuff in Australia, Aussie Sue. And very interesting stuff too. One of my favorites is the platypus. Definitely. I think it was one of the naturalists said it was almost as God was trying to play a joke on humankind when he put the platypus together. You know, yeah, and the ocean eventually give up their dead, implying spirits in the ground and water. That's true, Mike. You never go away. Your spiritual energy will remain forever, all eternity, in one form or another. Okay, we will never go. We have never actually gone away. I think, were created immortal in that respect, energy wise. Okay. There's another interesting thing. There are certain aspects in the Bible that says where God says, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. The numbers on your the hairs on your head were numbered. In other words, your name supposedly has been known since the foundations of the earth. Think about that a moment. Your fate, your destiny, you had to be what you are in that respect. And your name is a very mystical connection to you as well. Fuck else said I saw a little kangaroo wag its tail playing with its brother like a dog the other day. She was cute. I've seen cats, dude. Matter of fact, my cat Ghost, when he's happy, the tail does like it. I know he's okay. You can, especially when he's eating, that tail is moving. Yeah, magpies can talk, can't they? Yeah, they can be taught to speak words. Yeah, magpies, crows can be taught too. As a matter of fact, not just parrots. I had a parakeet one time that would speak. Yeah. I saw Bigfoot up close 2 years ago while on a trail, riding my sister and apparently 100 other people. It is a thrilling thing when you first see it. That's why I said a lot of times I know that Bigfoot exists because I saw it with my own eyes. I mean, there's no part of it now that I know that it does not exist. We're all a lot older than we realize, spiritually speaking. That's very true, Mike Jones. We are part of God in that respect. Although we are not gods, we are part of that. And I think that's the energy. God has been accused of being a murderer because he's killed people. You may kill the body, but that's only temporary. The spirit, God never kills the spirit. There's no that would make him a true murderer. Okay. That would make him not God. I mimic their whistles. Yeah. I probably taught more birds my fortunes than I have. My late uncle Maxie had his Maggie for many years, taught a lot. Yeah, that's true. Really though, there's not a whole lot of intelligence behind it. They're just mimicking a sound because birds, like dogs with a nose, birds go by sound a lot. That's a big thing with them. There's their songs, their whistles, their signals of each other. They're very sound oriented creatures in that respect. So I enjoy videos of kookaburras, listening to them. Oh yeah, kookaburras. Yeah. You got a lot of beautiful stuff in Australia. You got some deadly stuff in Australia. But hey, you got deadly stuff all over the world. That's not just Australia. I've always found Australia a fascinating place. I'd love to visit there one day. I'd probably get in trouble though. I always wanted to hang out with some of the Aboriginals and kangaroos. But anyway, Mike Jones says, I have a list of many Indian translations for the Bigfoot. Many call them basically giants with fur coats. I think they're directly connected to the Nephilim in that respect. But that's like I said on Jessica's show. I made a comment on Jessica's show today that I think that Dog Man stuff like that may be connected interdimensionally in some aspects. To portals and stuff. There's a lot going on there we need to investigate more. Danny Staten says Australia's awesome. I was there in the 80s. Oh, okay. Crows are noisy, always reading junk mail and trash. Yeah, they are nosy. They are brilliantly intelligent animals, crows and ravens. They remember you. They are smart. They're very smart. I've seen them take nuts and drop them on the highway and crack the nuts and go down and eat them. Smart. They are, I think, one of the few animals that actually use tools. Besides monkeys. Monkeys, I've seen them use tools, by the way. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. It's a little bit longer than our usual show, but that's okay. There was a Bigfoot in the dark in my backyard. I went out there to cover up my dad's lawnmower, and it grunted. Did not bother me. He had a deep bass voice, and I've seen lots of white Bigfoots. Oh, okay. Well, you might ought to put up some trail game cameras out there, Donna. Who knows what you might capture? If you've got some activity going around there, you might want to try that. And see if you just for the fun, pick up something. Else you never know. Thank you, Aussie Sue, for tuning in. Thank all of you. I appreciate your time, interest being here for another episode of Hunting the Shadows. And now, don't forget, Friday night we're gonna talk about alchemy, and we might even get into some modern day alchemy. Dr. John Dee, who was a fascinating character, and another fascinating character, John Constantine. Okay. Yeah, I might. I was going to say this, but I said I might get Keanu Reeves to come on here, but I doubt if he would show up. If I knew his phone number, I'd call him. Okay. But anyway, he appears a lot on Instagram. So if you happen to catch me, Keanu, you have an open invitation to my show Friday night at 8 p.m. Okay. I'll definitely send you a link, and I will have you on here. Okay. And we will talk about John Constantine. He's got a second movie coming out on that, Constantine 2, so we'll be talking about that. But the reason I'm bringing Constantine up on that, I just want to explain this right quick, is his connection to the occult and stuff like that, okay? So we're going to be talking about that, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So I hope you all have a fantastic part of the week that's left, and that you will stay aware of your surroundings, question everything. Be careful out there, okay? And there is something going around, so try not to be too socially interactive, okay? Better watch out for that. I think it's flu season too, on top of everything else. But Demos Alchemy, when we get to hear about the whole new, well, I'll get into that. I definitely will talk about that. Homunculus. Yep. Great show. Thank you, Mike Jones. Good to have you here, my friend. And you two, also, and all the rest of you out there. I appreciate you being here. And I got to get another chair. This is going way down too low here. I'm losing my head down here. Okay. Anyway, I appreciate you being here. And when we get together again Friday night, nothing happens. Okay. Alchemy, John Dee, and Constantine. It's going to be honest. And if you run into Keanu Reeves, you tell him I'm looking for him, okay? And until we get together again, okay, remember what I always say. Semper Veritas, that means grasp the truth, okay? Hold on to the truth. And Carpe Noctem, seize the night. And embrace the mystery. Hunting the Shadows.